welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Amidst the protests going on here in Nigeria, let's not forget a pandemic is still lurking amongst the population. Infection rates have been slowing not only in Nigeria but across Africa. It appears the coronavirus has been conquered against all the predictions given about the continent. Yet, yes, there is still a hunger problem. There are still concerns about negligence, about other medical emergencies that have been ignored because of this coronavirus and whose vaccines have been hampered because of focus on the coronavirus. But official figures have been dropping on infection rate from the coronavirus compared to other parts of the world. As some parts of Europe are already experiencing what has come to be known as a second wave of the coronavirus, and measures imposed earlier in the year are being reimposed. Some citizens trying to fight it, but at this point, how else can anyone fight the pandemic but to prevent it? The last time the world experienced anything like this was during the Spanish flu in 1918. It was known then as the deadliest in history, infecting as many as 500 million people, a third of the global population at the time. It also killed between 20 to 50 million people, including about 500,000 Nigerians, out of a population then of about 18 million. This year, as intense as the virus has spread, it also appears to be fading, as I mentioned earlier. Does Africa have the secret to ending the virus? The Spanish flu was said that the flu slowed because almost everyone already had it. It had no new hosts. Is that what is happening? Those who have lost loved ones and seen them succumb to the coronavirus will tell you they never expected it to go this way. We're still learning more about this coronavirus. For those who lost loved ones, we are sorry for your loss. So this week we're asking scientists, where do we go from here? We'll be talking to one of them on the program today. Stay tuned. Diplomatic Channel will be right back. The Nigerian High Commissioner to the UK, Ambassador George Adeshola Oguntade, has returned to Nigeria, having completed his diplomatic assignment in the UK. He assumed duty at the Nigeria High Commission on October 9, 2017. Before he left the UK, he had a meeting with a special representative of the UK Foreign Secretary, Miss Georgina Butler, at the airport to bid him farewell on behalf of the Commonwealth Office. He also had a farewell visit from the Marshal of the Diplomatic Corps, Mr. William Harrison, on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov announced over the weekend that Armenia and Azerbaijan had agreed to a ceasefire starting at midnight of Saturday, October 10th, to exchange prisoners and bodies of those killed in the conflict. He made the statement after 10-hour-long talks with his Armenian and Azeri counterparts in Moscow. He also said Armenia and Azerbaijan agreed to start talks on the settlement of the conflict. But hours after the truce, both sides accused each other of serious violations and crimes against civilians. On Sunday, Azerbaijan accused Armenia of heavily shelling a residential area in Ganja, its second largest city, in the early hours of the morning, which hit an apartment building. The Armenian Defense Ministry called the Azeri allegations an absolute lie and accused Azerbaijan of continuing to shell populated areas inside Karabakh, including Stepanakert, the region's biggest city. Finally, security forces in Belarus on Sunday detained dozens of protesters and used force, including water cannon and batons, to break up crowds demanding a new presidential election. Footage published by local news outlets showed police officers wearing black balaclavas, dragging protesters into unmarked black vans and beating protesters with their batons at a rally that drew thousands into the streets of Minsk. Police in Minsk said they had detained several dozen people. Russian media report that around 50 people had been detained and that police had used stun grenades to dispel demonstrators.
More than 37 million around the world have contracted the coronavirus, and more than 1 million of them have died from the disease. For a disease that presents as the common flu and cold, it is easy to mix the symptoms and misdiagnose. Fever, dry cough and tiredness, as well as aches, pain, sore throat, diarrhea, headache, could also present as symptoms of other ailments. Today, the world is well aware of the coronavirus, and while they say knowledge is power, knowledge has not stopped the infection rate from going up. Earlier in the year, countries in Europe shut borders and imposed strict lockdowns, imposing fines on violators. Lockdowns were also imposed in parts of Africa, the Middle East, the United States, and even Saudi Arabia banned the major Hajj that draws millions and thousands from around the world. Some lockdowns lasted 2 to 3 months. Economies fell, jobs were lost, and governments struggled to provide alternatives and answers. Soon, it became evident the lockdowns could only last so long. As infection rates began to fall as people interacted less with one another, the restrictions were loosened and life in the new normal began for everyone. Now, those restrictions have been called back and numbers are on the rise again. Countries like France, Spain, and the United Kingdom have been reporting record daily highs in the new cases, while the United States still has the highest number of cases and deaths. Over in Africa, figures appear to be falling. Nigeria has been reporting figures below 200 since the end of September. And while some restrictions remain, life is almost back to pre-COVID times. Across the continent, there have been over 1.5 million confirmed cases, with only 225,058 active cases and over 37,000 deaths. Though there's been a drive in new cases in Morocco, Tunisia and Libya, South Africa still has the highest recorded number of total cases and reported deaths in Africa and the 10th highest number of cases around the world. However, according to the World Health Organization, although new cases have been on a steady decline in highly populated provinces of Gauteng and the Western Cape, weekly case numbers have been rising in less populated provinces. The World Health Organization has also attributed Africa's low death rates to the continent's young population. COVID-19 is known to have a higher mortality rate for older age groups and among people with pre-existing conditions such as obesity and type 2 diabetes, which is less common in Africa. It has also mentioned low travel and outdoor living as contributors to Africa coping better. Then again, it has drawn attention to the number of testing being done on the continent, which has been quite low for countries such as Nigeria, but much higher for South Africa, compared to Europe, where testing is much higher.
On the program today, we'll be discussing response to the coronavirus, Africa's secret to slowing the spread, and what we must do to continue to stay healthy. My guest is a leading virologist and chairman, expert committee on COVID-19, Professor Oyewale Tomori. Professor Tomori has worked on several viral cases. He's written thousands of articles supporting his research, and one of the most trusted voices during this pandemic, especially here in Nigeria. He joins us now from Ibadan. Professor Tomori, it's a pleasure having you on Diplomatic Channel.
It's my pleasure, Marachi.
I want to begin with your thoughts, on the true situation of the coronavirus pandemic in Nigeria and in Africa.
Well, the story we are hearing is that the numbers are dropping. And yes, they are dropping, but they're dropping because we are testing less than we used to test. So it's the drop in numbers is matching the drop in the number of tests we're doing. I believe if we do more tests, we'll probably get more cases. And when you look at the drop, it's not consistent. Today it's 100, next day 70, then it drops, goes up to 180, all matching how much samples we're actually testing. So really, I don't think we're getting the true figures of what is happening. And if you look at the numbers of states that are actually reporting, some states have not reported for more than 2 months. I read in one of the reports from the NCDC that the 14 laboratories in Lagos for a whole week did not produce any results. So these are the complications. So that when we hear these figures, we need to get the true details so that we know exactly what the situation is. So I think my consideration is that yes, the situation may not be as bad as people predicted would be in Africa, but then we're not giving the true pictures of what is happening in Africa or in Nigeria.
Do you think there's enough cooperation between African countries, as regards, well, possibly research, and also as regards testing, sharing information on, new test kits? I know that Senegal did develop one a few months ago that costs $1.50 or so. And Nigeria is also working on a test kit that they say should be available, hopefully before the end of the year, that would help greatly with testing. Do you think that African countries really cooperate a lot in that aspect, sharing knowledge and research and findings?
We're not. I mean, the reason why I know a little more about what is happening in Africa is that I attend the regular meeting at the WHO African region, where countries submit reports to WHO. So we do hear what is happening at that level. But I'm not too sure Nigeria knows what is happening in Benin Republic next, or Togo next, or even Ghana. We see spots of progress, of activities, flashes of discovery in different parts of Africa, but we're not working together as Africa. A lot of things are happening in Africa. New discoveries are taking place. People are working on this, but then we're not sharing that information with ourselves. And that's where the problem is. You probably want to hear what is happening in Africa. You go to WHO Geneva, or you go to Johns Hopkins, and that's where you find out what is happening in your next door neighbor, which is sad, which is not right.
But can we really trust, the reports we're getting, from the Johns Hopkins University and the WHO? Because countries have to impute their figures into the global toll, right? So if they're not testing enough, it means that they're clearly not reporting exactly what is happening.
People say garbage in, garbage out. So that's what we are getting. Let me give you a good example. WHO, for example, says that some of the tests that they have not approved them, but then countries are using them. And when countries send the report to WHO lists it as figures for that country. So that's the problem that we're having. WHO says test, but the kits are not there. And the kits that are available, some of them are not validated. But WHO has no choice. It is what the country gives WHO that WHO will list as the figures for the country. So also with Johns Hopkins. NCDC has no control over many of the labs because they are state labs. And if your governor, your commissioner for health tells you no more testing, what are you going to do? You're not going to give anything to NCDC.
And then how do we reconcile this with, recent reports that it appears that the coronavirus is slowing in Africa? There had been a lot of fear at the start of the pandemic when it was slowly gaining foothold in Africa that, there'd be reports, from some foundations, some research groups that Africa would be the hardest hit, that we will find dead bodies on the streets, that this is where the concern is. But so far, there hasn't been much really to worry about except for testing.
Yeah, you're right. People can only base their assumption on historical facts. Africa has been known to be the verdant pasture for epidemics, namely yellow fever, Ebola, malaria, all those kind of things. So that's what we know. That's the knowledge you have. And therefore, when a new thing comes, we look back at the back and say, historically, Africa is where the problem is. So when this one comes and is causing so much damage in other places, it's going to be far worse in Africa. But then each of us, both the people who are in China, we are seeing this disease for the first time. And I think it is a very silly thing for us in Africa to actually depend on what is happening in Europe. What I mean by that, to seek guidance from what is happening in Europe or this thing. We're all blind people trying to lead each other. COVID-19 was never in China before, was not in Europe before. So it's something new and everybody's learning. And so I think because of that thing of us in Africa to be dependent on what is coming from outside, we just sit down to look at what will we do if this comes in. So when they said it's going to, when the Europe came around and said historically Africa will be the big place, of course we too kind of believe that. And then we're shocked when it didn't come out to be. Now it is for us to begin to look at why did it not be. First of all, I have nothing against models. When they tell you that 190,000 people are there, it always says, if you don't do this, if you don't do this, if you don't do this, 190,000 people will die. Therefore, if you do that, then the number will not be what you get. Therefore, models are okay. They alert you. They put you on the alert to do what needs to be done so that you don't get the 190,000 they say will die. Therefore, the thing for us to do right now to be preemptive is to take all those speculations and do a research to prove or disprove them. That's how we learn. But then, so instead of our people, all the things that our governments are doing, improve on your research. Look at those questions, set up research to answer them. And once you have the solution, then you know how it is that Africa seems to have been free from what everybody expected. And then we can prepare for the future. And then we can use that as information, in dealing with preventing for future epidemics.
What do you think Africa really is doing, to its own advantage, that it is not being, terribly hit by this virus? It is baffling the rest of the world, that fortunately we don't seem to have as many deaths as some countries in Europe and even the United States, where you have over 200,000 people who have died from the coronavirus.
Well, let me put it this way. Somehow, initially, when those things started, I thought we were probably going to get a second wave. In the first place, we're just getting down to the first whatever we are having the drops, in spite of all what people are saying about not testing and all that. Yes, we're not testing enough. But assuming that we even test like 10 times they're testing in Europe, our number will be how much? Would then be 600,000 maybe? I mean, I'm just looking at Nigeria. If you do a pro rata, so it is still not like what we see in other parts of the world. But the point is that I think the same thing that made us not to have this problem, where the large numbers and the dead people on the road, will probably still there. Africa hasn't changed. I don't believe too much that there'll be a second wave as such. I may be wrong, but from what we've seen with this first batch, if there's going to be another wave at all, it's going to, because the reason why the second wave will be that already a lot of people will have been infected. You remember 60-80% of people don't show the symptoms. So if all these 6 months, people have been infected, we're not seeing the cases, many more people to be infected. These are the things. That's why you have the issue of second wave, that kind of situation. So for me, I believe that we probably, if there's even with the opening of our borders, opening schools and so on, yeah, we're going to have some increase in number. But I don't think we're going to have the situation that we're having in Europe. So what to me would need for us to do is to sit down and find out the reasons why, because it will help us for the future. In a way, I'm saying I don't expect any major second wave, number one. Secondly, even if we improve our testing, it will still, be around the same type of things we're getting, because it's not the second wave will not be coming as if something is new is coming. It's been here for 6 months now, and this is what we got out of it. If the next batch comes, maybe we'll get a little more higher level, but it's not going to be like a big wave, like other people are getting in that part. If it has remained like that in Africa, I don't think anything's going to change it from that. This is my own view. But again, I still keep stressing that we need to sit down and find out exactly why the doomsday prediction did not occur. That will help us better for future activities. And that's where I let our government come in and focus on funding those things. Find out, for example, take the issue of people's, immunity. It would be a wonderful thing to go back into the archives. Samples collected in Nigeria before COVID came in, like say in the 2015, 2013, 14, that period. Check them against this virus. How many of our people get it? It's possible that the coronavirus was existing before, which did not cause more symptoms that we're having. And therefore, that is protecting our people. These are questions. These are things that science and research will be able to sort out. And that's why we have gotten that. It's not the daily PTF telling us numbers and whatever. It is to look into those problems. Those things that why we are not getting what we're getting. That will give us more important information than the daily figures we're getting from NCDC.
I think that many African countries are probably pigging back off of the successes of the Ebola virus, because thankfully it was caught in time here in Nigeria, and for the rest of Africa there was a lot of cooperation, and this seemed to have been an African problem. So we all had to pull in resources to help. But it does appear that Africa really hasn't learned its lesson. We have a current pandemic. There could be more in the near future. How can we prevent this?
Yeah, thank you very much. I actually often say that we operate in Africa on lessons forgotten, not lessons learned. Yellow fever has been with us in Nigeria for how many? Can't remember the number, since 1925. Lassa fever came in Nigeria in 1969. And every year when Lassa fever comes, it's like it's a new disease. Lassa has come again, that kind of thing. Because we don't remember the lessons of the past. We don't build on those ones to plan for the future. But of course, when the thing comes, we quickly are able to manage and gather things. To be fair to Africa, especially African Center for Disease Control and a few others, they've been able to pull resources together as quickly as possible, which was better than what it was during the Ebola of West Africa, Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. Things are much better now because the time to respond has been reduced. A few structures are in place, although some of them, after the Ebola, they became dilapidated. Take Nigeria, for example. We had that EOC in Lagos, which the day Nigeria was declared free of Ebola, that center just deteriorated. One by one, all the structures there started going away. Although Lagos had the experience with that, so they built on that, and Lagos responded faster than they would have responded. But it is to be prepared, not to respond. Response time has shortened, but then it's better to be prepared so that you won't have it. You remember the point I was saying? If Nigeria had locked its door that day when our first case came in, we won't be where we are today. That's preparedness. That's getting ready for eventuality. You don't want it to happen. Prevention, they say, is better than cure. That's what we should do. And so back to the point you are raising. I don't think we have learned enough lesson. And what I mean by that, we have not sustained the gains of the past.
Yeah, and looking back, to predict the future and also to prepare for the future. And now, with the Spanish flu, over between 20 to 30 million people, beg your pardon, 500 million people around the world contracted the Spanish flu. And the reason researchers said it ended was because there were no new hosts, for the flu to settle on. Do you think that's what will happen with the coronavirus? Because researchers and scientists are telling us we have to learn to live with the virus now.
Yeah, I consider it part of the world wars or something of that nature. So there was also that combination with it. The war was not at peace, there was war, and also kind of things added on to increase the number of people that died. Simply, unfortunately for us now, we are not at war in many parts. I mean, war as in World War type of thing. So I don't expect this to, but then the figures now we're getting is not in that range. And I don't believe that, again, we're dealing with different kind of viruses, how people react to it. And the approach to Spanish flu is quite different from what we have. Now it's taking us like less than 2 years to get a vaccine for this one. The other time there was absolutely no vaccine, no drug or something of that nature. So that created a problem. So if the vaccines come in early next year, possibly, and we have that one, then of course that will reduce the possibility of many more people dying from it. And these are some of the, so the world is a better place now than the time of the Spanish flu. There are better drugs, there are better treatment, there are better communication, which can spread information amongst ourselves on what next to do. There are better opportunities to learn from each other, than in the days of this. So it shouldn't be, situation should not be as bad as the Spanish flu because of these new advantages we're getting. But that's, of course, if you take advantage of the new information that we have. And take our people, for example, we know, according to what we are told, that if you put on your face mask, if you wash your hand, you keep your distance, you can actually reduce the spread of this disease.
Professor Oyewale Tomore, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you on Diplomatic Channel. Thank you for joining us. We hope to chat with you again in the near future.
It's my pleasure, Amarachi, and thank you for the opportunity to speak my mind.
And thank you at home for watching. Once again, wearing of face masks, using hand sanitizers, washing your hands and keeping them away from your face will help stop the spread of the coronavirus. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.